Good evening, this is Mr. Wintermelon. So in the last video on respiration, we are going to learn the effect of tobacco smoking, which is another word of saying cigarette smoking, on lung diseases. So the main objective of this lesson is to allow you to describe the effect of tobacco smoking and its major toxic component, nicotine, tar, and carbon monoxide, on our health. There's two things that I want you to take note. In your textbook, they label irritant as another major component. But take note, irritant is a very general term for something that irritates you. For example, your classroom teacher. And since the syllabus outline mentioned these three components, I think we should stick to it instead of using a very general term such as irritant, because you might as well say toxic component. And the other thing which I would like you to take note is cigarette smoking also causes other diseases such as our coronary heart disease, which we have touched upon in the chapter on transport in human. Smoking causes many lung diseases because our respiratory system is the first that comes into contact with the toxic component. So let us first watch a video on a pig's lung that have been smoking far too much cigarette. So what we have down here is the lung of a pig, and as you can see, the scientists are giving it some cigarette. Now the lung is breathing in, then it breathes out. So you can see that it can pump air in as well as draw air out from the lung. So now we insert a cigarette, then light it up, and we will see what will happen to the lung after a few sticks. So what they did was to give the lung 60 cigarette, and this is the result. Comparing it to a healthy one, you can see that there is some black color substances in the lung. So now this is the trachea of a healthy lung. When we cut open, you can see that it's clear. And this is the lung of the smoking pig. And if we cut open the trachea, we can see some black color substances that are trapped inside. And it's not just the trachea that have been stained black. If we cut it open, we can see that the rest of the lung have also been stained black by the chemical. So this is a healthy lung. You can see the difference in the color. The clean trachea compared to the dirty trachea. The color is very different. So this is the effect after just 60 cigarettes. So what are the toxic substances that cause all of these diseases? First, we have our nicotine. Nicotine is the drug that causes cigarette to be addictive because it causes the release of adrenaline. It keeps people alert. Adrenaline is the hormone that causes people to be alert, which is why someone that is addicted to cigarette might find the need to smoke to keep themselves alert. So the effect of adrenaline has on the body is it increases the heartbeat as well as blood pressure. And another effect is it increases the risk of blood clotting in vessel, since adrenaline increase the rate of blood clotting. Next, we have our carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide will combine with hemoglobin, forming carboxyhemoglobin. Unlike oxygen, when it binds to hemoglobin, forming oxyhemoglobin, oxygen will actually dissociate from hemoglobin when it reaches region of the body that has low concentration of oxygen. In the case of carbon monoxide, because the bond between carbon monoxide and hemoglobin is very strong, so once it binds onto hemoglobin, it will not dissociate itself easily. And even when the red blood cell is sent to our spleen to be destroyed, if the carbon monoxide is released, it will go on to bind onto the hemoglobin of other red blood cells. It increases the risk of fatty deposit on the wall of artery because carbon monoxide damages the lining of blood vessel. So this will lead to an increased risk of coronary heart disease. The effect on the body is carbon monoxide will reduce the ability of red blood cell to transport oxygen because it combines with hemoglobin. It increases the risk of arteriosclerosis as mentioned above, and also increase the risk of blood clotting. Next, we have our tar. Tar is a carcinogen. What is carcinogen? Carcinogen is any chemical or agent that causes or increase the risk of you getting cancer. If I have the time, I will make a video on how you get cancer. But for the moment, just take it as cancer is caused by uncontrolled cell division. When your cell multiply by a lot, you get a lump of cell down there, and that is in some way a cancer or a tumor. Tar also paralyzes the ciliary lining in our passageway, and the effect is it increases the risk of lung cancer. And as our ciliary lining is paralyzed, it is unable to remove the mucus and dust, hence increase the risk of bronchitis as well as emphysema, both of which we will cover in the later part of this video. Lastly, irritant, which you can find inside your textbook. So the effect of those irritant is they also paralyze the ciliary lining and increase the risk of lung cancer depending on which irritant you are talking about. And dust and mucus cannot be removed because our cilia is paralyzed. Remember, the function of our cilia is to sweep up the mucus, which trap the dust as well as bacteria. Hence, this will also increase bronchitis as well as emphysema. So in some way, tar can be considered an irritant, which is why I say in O-level, just don't write irritant. Just write nicotine, carbon monoxide, or tar if they ask you what are the toxic chemicals found in cigarette smoke. So let us talk about bronchitis. But before we start, I would like to increase your general knowledge by talking about TIS, T-I-S, in bronchitis, the last three letters. So you might have heard of tonsillitis, appendicitis, and many other diseases that end with TIS. So for diseases that end with TIS, normally they are inflammational disease. And you probably have heard of inflammation. But what is inflammation? Basically, inflammation is caused by over-enthusiastic body defense mechanism. So our white blood cell will go to site where there's a lot of bacteria and try to kill the bacteria. And in the process, they will release a lot of toxic chemical trying to kill the bacterial cell. And in the process, those chemicals that are harmful to the bacteria is also actually harmful to our body cell as well. Hence, it causes inflammation. So inflammation is basically the effect of the damaging chemical that is released from our body defense mechanism. So next time you heard of someone having a disease that ends with tis, you can be a smart aleck and ask, oh, is it the inflammation of that part of the body? So bronchitis is the inflammation of our airway, surprise, surprise, inflammation. The cilia lining our epithelium are paralyzed and cannot remove the excessive mucus and ducts. So when there's a lot of mucus that's stuck in our airway, our bronchi will be blocked, making it very difficult for us to breathe. So as a result, our body will try to remove the mucus by making ourselves cough. And this persistent coughing can increase the risk of lung infection as well as the cell along the lining to die, because coughing, this kind of violent vibration as well as muscle contraction is very damaging to our cell. Next, we have emphysema. Emphysema is the coughing due to bronchitis, as we have mentioned earlier. So this coughing will break down the alveoli, decreasing the surface area for gaseous exchange. Our lung will lose its elasticity, as you have seen in the video, and become inflated with air. As a result, because we are unable to get sufficient oxygen, we will be wheezing as well as feeling breathlessness. So the sequence of events is this. First, you develop chronic bronchitis. Chronic meaning long term, as opposed to acute. Acute means just a short while. So the understanding is this. Chronic bronchitis will cause your cilia to be paralyzed. You are unable to get rid of the mucus. Then we will start to develop emphysema, which is the coughing due to bronchitis. And this coughing will break down the alveoli. So you can see from the diagram, the alveoli becomes broken and it reduces the surface area. So it reduces the amount of oxygen that can be absorbed into the blood capillary, resulting in us needing more oxygen. Therefore, we will start wheezing or appear as breathless. So the sequence of developing of disease is important down here. First, chronic bronchitis, then emphysema. Someone with emphysema will have reduced ability to take in oxygen because of the decrease in surface area of our alveoli. Finally, let us talk about lung cancer. But first, I would like to talk about one science article. If you have read this journal article, variation in cancer risk among tissues can be explained by the number of stem cell divisions. It might lead you to think that cancer is not caused by our lifestyle, but rather the number of time the cell divide, and hence it is down to our bad luck or genetic. But if you scroll down and actually study the article carefully, while many of the cancer in this study, yes, it's true, is due to how many times the cell divide as opposed to lifestyle, the blue color bar down here are the cancer that is caused by your lifestyle. And lung cancer in smoker is one of them. And the risk is actually quite high. So if we can change our lifestyle, it can definitely reduce the chance of a person getting lung cancer. So we can see that lung cancer is definitely due to our lifestyle, and smoking really increases the lung cancer. And I strongly suggest you to, okay, I wouldn't even say strongly, just go over to this video and watch the story of a young man who developed lung cancer. So if you have watched the video, you should know that this guy started smoking when he is 13 years old. And by the time he was 33, he found that he had lung cancer. And this is a photo of him and his son shortly before he found that he has lung cancer. So after he had developed lung cancer, he went for treatment, And after 9 weeks, this was what happened to him. So you can see all his hair has dropped. You can see that he's barely recognizable, but you can see the photo of his son and him over there. He is completely not recognizable after just 2 months or so of cancer treatment, and he died shortly after this photo was taken. So lung cancer, like other cancer, actually takes a long time to develop. So for the guy that you saw in the video who developed lung cancer when he was 33, you might say he's a bit unfortunate because normally people do not develop lung cancer at that young age, but maybe he smoked a bit too much. But if we look earlier, when he started smoking at 13, there's no one getting lung cancer at that kind of age. Even as we move on to 30, 34, even 40, when the rate starts to increase a bit, it is still very little. But when most people start getting lung cancer, whether it's male or female, is 45 and above. 50 to 55, the numbers start to become increasingly worrying. And just ask yourself a question. Smoking does not affect you at the present moment. It does not even affect you 10 years later. Well, I'm assuming that those who are watching this video are 15, 16 years old student. 20 years down the road, you are still 36 years old. Most likely, smoking is not going to cause lung cancer when you are at 36. There's a small risk, but it's still not going to appear. It will start appearing at the age of 45 to 50. Now, think about it. How many of your parents is in this age group? 40 to 45 or 40 to 60. So if you are parents at this age, not only will the cancer affect you, but it will also affect your family as well, because you might be the breadwinner of your family or someone that is contributing a significant amount of the household income. Even if it's half, I would say it is significant. So bear in mind this, when you start smoking at a young age, it really wouldn't affect you right now. Who it will affect is actually your family, your future children, your future son, your future daughter. When they are growing up, you will be dying of cancer and you will not be able to take care of them. And instead, you will be a burden because all this cancer treatment actually costs money. So imagine your child having to lose a parent at primary school or teenage age. Are they going to cope well or are they not going to cope well? For you, it's actually quite simple. You just die. But for them, they have to continue to live on, maybe with much financial difficulty. So think about it. It is not going to affect you right now. It's not even going to affect you 20 years later. What is going to affect is your children as well as your parents, because they will not have a son or daughter to take care of them when they are older.